Hey guys, welcome to the Pyramid Science Foundation Livestream. Here we explore the amazing ways energy can transform our lives, whether it's through the power of pyramids, ancient wisdom, or cutting edge research. From health and spiritual growth to agriculture and free energy, we dive into all the ways energy shapes our world. I'm Lisa Richards, Vice Chair of the Pyramid Science Foundation and owner of Ultra Ether. And with me, as always, is Charmin Charlie Ziese, Chairman of the Foundation, owner of Stargate Pyramids, and a leading expert in pyramid energy and sacred geometry. Say hi to everyone, Charlie.
Hi, everyone.
So we have a great show for you guys today. Excuse me. We have engineer and author John Shaughnessy. He's joining us again. Let's bring John on real quick. So John was actually with us. Yeah, John was actually with us 2 years ago. If you caught his last appearance, you'll remember he laid out his fascinating theory that the pyramids were actually advanced geyser-powered machines designed to manage floods and stabilize the Earth's climate. Well, today we're diving even deeper because new discoveries at the Khafre pyramid might just back him up. How cool is that? That's so exciting. Welcome, John.
Thanks for having me on. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Charlie. It's always good to be here, and I think we're going to have a great show.
Great. Can't
Absolutely.
wait to see what you have to say today.
And so I got ahead of myself there too. I forgot to see if you had any announcements, Charlie.
Well, I was hoping you'd ask. As those of you who watched last week's show know, at the end of the show, I mentioned that I had been doing a lot of new work in other areas, and that I had new geometric angles and wanted to kind of see where the Pyramid of the Sun in Bosnia, whether I could relate it to some of these geometries. Well, it got me going, and I have to say, not only can I correlate the Bosnian apex geometry to a specific angle that I have been finding everywhere in nature and so forth for the first volume of the book, but I've now been able to go through every major pyramid site in the world, and every one of these sites, one of these geometries correlates with each one of these pyramids around the world. So I think it's pretty big stuff. I can't wait to, I'm waiting to hear back from Dr. Sam, but I'm planning on, doing some kind of a video and or article about this before I probably publish it in the book. But I think it's a pretty big deal. That's it.
Awesome. Well, John, let's get into your work, because you were on board with this 2 years ago. You were telling people about what you thought the pyramids actually were. And now the discovery under Khafre kind of proves that might be where it's going, right?
Yeah. It's a little. It's always good to get some feedback from the technology. I mean, you put out what you have at the time in a moment, and sometimes you just have to wait until more evidence shows up, and then, well, here it is. It's the smoking gun as far as I'm concerned, as the purpose of these particular pyramids on the Ziese Plateau. And going full circle to my book, Pyramids and the Great Floods. In the book, I put out a lot of information, and backed it up with physical evidences, and for the most part, I left it kind of blank. Well, not blank. I just left it that the pyramids were sitting over a large vertical aqueduct that went down to the subterranean ocean that's 34 miles beneath the Ziese Plateau, that encompasses four 4 countries actually. And we'll get into that slideshow a little later. We'll hit those. But so in essence, I just assumed that there was some kind of a channel going down to this ocean. And when we go into geyser season, uh, a you know Noah flood type of event, these oceans get hit with extremely hot material. Could be magma, could be water coming up from the transition zone, and we're talking about incredibly high temperatures. And obviously, when you get high temperatures like magma or thousands and thousands of degrees, comes into contact with water that is like 140 degrees in these large oceans,
Mm-hmm.
you have a steam generator. You're going to have a massive explosion of steam. And what these pyramids are set up to do during this season is to stop the steam from going into the atmosphere. So in essence, they're like reducing stations. They'll contain the steam, the pressure, and prevent the bulk of it from going airbound, which basically, if it does go airbound, which it would today because all the pyramids are open on the Earth, doors wide open, this steam would come out, basically fill the atmosphere up around the entire globe in a short amount of time and drive us into what I call snowball Earth. And with the pyramids closed up and preventing this from happening, you go into a nice slow descend into an ice age where life has a chance to adapt and survive and move around, and roll with the punches like most of the species on the planet do. So it's a very serious technology. It's a very scary event. But you have the every continent has a Noah flood story, and the geologists of late, like the last decade or so, have left the mainstream and said we can't teach this garbage anymore because the erosion patterns around the planet. The only thing that explains it is global floods, multiple global floods. So it used to be that, I mean, we're all brought up with it in America, anyways. In these places around the globe, like places like the Grand Canyon, we're told that the Colorado River carved the Grand Canyon. It just doesn't make any physical sense. The amount of water, the amount of force, even with the advent of the end of the ice age and the amount of erosion that happens with that, it pales in comparison to what the erosion patterns of a global flood would be. So there's a lot of evidence that this is a season on Earth. We have what I call it's a geyser season, and it happens generally at the end of the interglacial period, and then we segue into the ice age. So you have like I have in the book, you have land exhausting geysers, and you have ocean geysers. Right now, the ocean can deal with the superheated steam. It'll keep the bulk of it from going into the atmosphere and minimize the discharge. But on land, the land-based geysers, if they're allowed to just exhaust into the atmosphere, it's very devastating. So obviously, a society of advanced technology had come down and they've managed this event, this season that it happens on Earth for the benefit of all life on the planet. You know, so it's not just human life; it's for every species on the planet. And we're living on a water world. As we speak right now, millions of gallons of draining from the bottom of the ocean, making its way down to the transition zone, where the volume of ocean water down there is said to be five times, a minimum of 5 times the surface water. So there's a big cycle, and at some point that transition zone hits a saturation point, and you got Genesis, you have like other parts of ancient texts around the world. Every sophisticated society on the planet at one time has some kind of a flood story. India, Australia, South America, obviously, Europe and Middle East, China, So there's a lot of flood stories out there, and they're reoccurring. They're reoccurring. So the Abrahamic religions don't have that reoccurring thing. They think it's a once-off, but the other ancient stories out there, it's a reoccurring event, and it's just part of life on Earth as we know it. It's scary stuff. Nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
very. Guys,
I got a basic question for you, John.
yeah,
Most of the people who study the pyramids,
yeah,
at least as my understanding, believe that the pyramids were a way of transmitting energy
mhm,
or receiving it, but let's say transmitting
yeah,
in this context. Uh, and the reason why that was they were able to do that was because of its peculiar location on the planet,
mm,
the
mm,
sacred geometry of the dodecahedrons, and so it was one of those vortex points
right,
that we had. But that sounds, I mean, that's very much in contradiction, I think, to what you're saying, which is, yeah, we have all this energy coming together here, but
right.
that's the location that you're suggesting these
Geysers.
eruptions may have
Yeah,
occurred on the planet. Am I correct?
right,
So they had to be done in that location to hold
right.
back the pressure, not to try to receive it or
Yeah,
transmit it or use it.
you want to limit the exhaust. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
It's not a valve like a stop valve. You can't contain the pressure. You just have to live with it and minimize the discharge.
Okay.
So, and on top of that, we got three large pyramid locations on the planet: Mexico, Central America, in that area, Egypt, and
Mhm.
then China,
Right.
Xi'an, China. And that's where you have 1,000-foot tall pyramids there. And each one of these locations where these pyramid clusters are is a subterranean freshwater ocean. And, so it's these 3 points of discharge that these pyramids are built on to manage the geyser discharge
Got it.
from these subterranean oceans. So it's not just Giza per se. It's China and Central what do you call it? Mexico,
Yeah.
Central America,
Yes.
Mexico.
Yucatan,
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
Yucatan Peninsula, exactly. You get a lot of pyramids down there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they all have these subterranean oceans. Now it's not 34 miles of water from the surface of the earth down to the 34 miles. It's all for the most part dry. You get a little bit of groundwater here and there at the surface of the planet, but then you're going 30, 35, or 34 miles straight down, or 30 miles straight down bedrock, dry until you hit this cavern of where this water is, these
Okay.
oceans, and so that's the management point. So I mean, the pyramid in and of itself is it's a sacred geometry. It's got gravity. It's got its own magnetic field. It's got its own gravitational field. It's going to be able to be read with instrumentation to have this particular vortex of energies and things of that nature. But my studies and my theory is basically the primary purpose of these pyramids is to control geysers. Now, there's always a secondary, or third or fourth or fifth purpose you can add to these pyramids. There's no doubt about that. But I believe the primary purpose of it was to get on top of these extreme explosions when they do happen and prevent it from going airbound. You got a moon on Europa, not on Europa. You got a moon that orbits Jupiter called Europa,
Yeah.
and it's a miniature Earth. It's got a molten core. It's got a magnetic field. It's got an ocean, and it has geyser explosions, regularly. And when they go off on Europa, they go 120 miles straight up into the above the surface of the moon. An enormous amount of energy. I mean, they don't have the gravitational field. It's like, I think Europa is probably a quarter of the Earth's magnetic gravitational field. So you're going to have the water that's going to escape that high. And it's just it's on other planetary bodies too. There are evidence of geysers and things of that nature. So it's only common sense and natural to think that this is something that we have to deal with. And obviously these I, I think it was before the Anunnaki, that came in and dealt with this. I mean, the Anunnaki might have come in and enlarged the pyramids, worked on them like we should be doing. But right now we're into tourism and
Right.
entertainment. And so that's what my hope is, that down the road that this is why not play it safe? I don't have to be right. Nobody has to be right. Why don't we just play it safe? Rebuild these things, close them up, and keep the scanning going, keep the non-invasive exploration going on that technological level, and close them up, because I mean we are at the end of the interglacial period, and basically mainstream is at a loss for what really triggers the ice age. And the part of this theory of mine is this geyser event season is what drives in the ice age. When these geysers discharge into the ocean, they disrupt the conveyors. You have Pacific, North and South Pacific conveyor. You have the Atlantic, North and South conveyors, and you have the Indian Ocean conveyors. And that conveyor is what allows life to flourish in the higher latitudes, both in the southern and northern hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
So when that comes crashing down, and these geysers will destroy that conveyor, and it will stop the tempering of the higher latitudes. So you'll go into you'll drift down into an ice age. Now there's two ice, like I said earlier, there's two paths of an ice age. You get the snowball Earth, and you get the slow descend. So there's not much we can do with the geysers launching off of the floor of the ocean, that I'm aware of. I mean, they come out, they're going to do their thing, they're going to heat up the oceans and crash the conveyors, and like I just said, not to repeat myself.
So are
it's just
all the pyramids are inactive, you think, or are any of them active right now?
they're all active. They're all sitting over geysers. The large pyramids are sitting over geysers. They're built over it. Pyramid of the Sun, they found a geyser port, or portal, not a portal, but a tube, if you will, under the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico. So that's like, it's geologically, evidence.
You think they're all doing their job then? Or you mentioned rebuilding them. Like, what would we have to do for them to do their job properly?
The way for these pyramids to do their job is they have to be closed up. Like when you open up a pyramid, the steam comes up, it's going to go out the entrance and then right into the atmosphere. So the way these things work is that they're built, they do all the interior, work, and they close them up. Like the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico, forget the guy's name, but there was this massive mica sheet. And mica, we use mica in my industry, power plant industry, where you can, you use it for a gauge glass material because it withstands very high temperatures and very high pressures. And there was a sheet of mica on the top of, the Pyramid of the Sun. And basically it was used to withstand the high temperatures of these geysers, but it was liberated and cut up in chunks. It's some wild size. It was like 50 or 75 feet by 75 feet by 10 or a foot thick, and the only place it could have come from was like in Chile, someplace in Chile, like 2,000 miles away. I mean, it's just mind-boggling because there's nothing in that area of Mexico that has a mica mine. So if you can imagine, this thing was, enormous. But anyways, it was cut up because that was right at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution with the advent of electricity, and mica is also a great conductor. So they shipped it over to England and they chopped it up and used it into, as manufacturing material for the beginning of the electrical age. So that pyramid has to be repaired somehow. Some other technology has to be in place to deal with the high pressure and the high temperature steam that comes up out of these geysers to stop it from going airborne. I mean, it's a beautiful pyramid. They did a great rebuild, 1920 or 1930s or whatever. And, but functionally, it's not going to withstand the pressures and temperatures that it has had in the past because of the removal of that particular element. So
That makes sense. Well, let's get into your slideshow. I know you have quite a few pictures to show people. And
yeah, we'll get into that. Sounds good. Yeah, we'll pop something up and we'll give credit due where credit's due. This is the Khafre scan, and this is the group. This is their front page of their work, and for the most part, it's Italian scientists that put this together in their papers, and they came from they were affiliated with a couple of what do you call it, universities, Strathclyde and Glasgow, UK, and then there was the University of Pisa in Italy. So pronouncing their names are hard to pronounce, but we go to the next slide, we'll be able to see their names and their faces. Right here, yeah. So it's their official press release, and you have what's the name there? Fernando Malaga, and I can't read it anyways. But yeah, so they're three scientists, two of the scientists. They're published a paper, put it out there using their satellites 400 miles above the Earth. They didn't have to get any permission from anybody. They just went ahead and did the side scan on the Giza Plateau pyramids. And if you go to the next slide there, and this is what they kind of come up with. This is the what do you call it? The creation of the software that they plug all the analysis into, all the imaging into. And right here, you're looking at GP2 Khafre, and you'll see, I believe there's 5 similar constructed king chamber, structures there. And you'll see top of these 8 30-foot wide. They get out 650 meters. I think that equates to 200 and what is it?
Yeah,
like
over a mile long.
like 1,800 feet, a third of a mile. We're talking incredible technology. I mean, this blows the door off of the technology of the pyramids being built. Like we thought the pyramids were amazing. If these things, are what they are, this is mind-boggling technology.
Yeah, I was reading some things that people are saying this goes underneath the whole entire complex,
Yes.
all pyramids, but some people are saying it's just under Khafre.
I believe it's under Khafre because they said it encompasses like 80 by 80 meters. So, and there's what I call a manifold box that they all sit on. That's 80 by 80 meters. So that's 240 feet by 240 feet. So that would fit under Khafre, no problem. Yeah.
What do you think these king's chamber things function as right here?
They bleed off the pressure. They are exposed to the pressure, the geyser pressure that comes up, and they're built to leak. They're built to bleed off. It's like a reducing station, and they stop the the steam and the water from going into the atmosphere. So they're massive. That's why they're so massive. I mean, the one in GP1 that would that's been fully analyzed and inspected and picked apart for 100 some odd years. I mean, there's 42 beams, and each one of those beams is 70 tons. I mean, 70,000 pounds.
Yeah.
I think 35 tons. So,
Hmm.
they're just massive. So they're built to withstand, some amazing pressures and temperatures. And granite can take the high temperatures of, superheated steam, and it can also withstand the way it's constructed. It can withstand the pressure also. So you can imagine like the steam pressure coming up out of a geyser just with one of these, King's chambers is coming up. It's going in there, and the pressure bleeds off through the five chambers above the King's chamber, and a good portion of the pyramids are filled with quartz sand. Quartz sand doesn't clump up like regular sand. It'll drain out the water. It doesn't like block things. It's that, and so that specific sand is used in a good portion. I mean, it could be a quarter or 2/3 or a third of the pyramid is filled with sand inside, around these structures, and then you have numerous, uh, you know, tunnels around the pyramids, and that bleeds the water off. It comes out. It comes out of the pyramid, ends up in the Nile. It ends up, all over the Giza plateau, and the actual GP1 has two vents. You got the north and south vent. So when the water and the steam and pressure goes up into that particular the chamber itself, that blows out the sides of the pyramid. So you can see the water and steam coming out both sides of the pyramid, and for the most part, it alarms people that, hey, the big flood could be coming. It's on the way. Things things are active now. Like if you look at volcanic magma places that have seismic activity, magma discharge, active volcanoes like out in Hawaii in particular. I mean, you got Kilauea out there. It's like a constant erupting volcano. I mean, these magma chambers literally they're not even a mile under the surface. They're relatively close to the surface. Yellowstone has a giant plume. It's like, I don't know, 100 square miles, maybe 5 miles under the surface. But and so I mean, these are extremely hot. They boil flash water off in a heartbeat. So for whatever reason, wherever these pyramids are built, there's really no serious magma intrusion going on next to these subterranean oceans. So so I'm just filling in. I go full circle every once in a while just to add in a little bit of activity of what's actually going on under here. But once they get exposed to if it's not magma, it's the discharge of the super high temperature water light material that's locked up in the transition zone. I mean, this stuff just flashes into steam very fast, and you got explosive temperatures. So in a nutshell, that's what they do. They're reducing stations. Their main purpose is to keep the moisture out of the atmosphere, keep the steam, as much as they can out of the atmosphere. I guess that's, yeah. We're losing volume here.
Oh, we just had a comment. Crazy news
Oh,
from Giza. Looks like some people have been very close with their theories.
okay. I don't know what that means, but
Yeah.
Mainly saying that probably, I'm assuming he's referring to you being close with your theories and other
okay.
people being close with your theories. And
All right,
then this
thank you.
lady, Kelly, commented and said they were designed to take advantage of the water that was present tens of thousands of years ago. It's mostly gone now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've seen that before, but you gotta come to terms with, and it's a great. I'm not poo pooing that. And everybody's got their path, but you got to come to a realization that you got an extremely hot core, you got an extreme amount of water. They put microphones down there in the Mariana Trench. There's millions of gallons a day draining into these, giant crevices, a mile plus down on the surface of the ocean, and it's just a matter of time. I mean, there's been some hot mics on theoretical physicists, geophysicists, in panic when they talk about the whole planet's going to explode. Like, I mean, it's just, this isn't, these are real, geologists and physicists that are on board with, this particular cycle. I mean, they don't talk about it because it's terrifying. I get to talk about it because I lost my tenure at Harvard years ago. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I'd rather die of the planet than other ways anyway. So
yeah, I mean, I just put out what I've come to. You just got to come to the terms with it that this is, here's another thing. I mean, Ellis Island, 100 years ago, they got a picture of it, and they got a picture of it yesterday. The water hasn't gone up an inch. It's the same height. Now, in that interim, we've lost trillions of tons of ice mass at the poles. A lot of your glaciers are completely gone. We're talking about, a lot of water that has been added to the ocean. Well, that water has not risen the ocean at all. So where is this water going? So it's going down. It's going down into this place, and like I said, it's going to hit a saturation point, and you go back to Genesis. You'll feel a large earthquake that will be felt around the globe, and that's when you have the fracture of this particular place. And instead of magma coming out of the earth, it's water. It's superheated steam.
So when you said the pyramids put steam into the environment, I was instantly thinking of the chemtrails. Do they have a connection?
No connection at all. But I mean, chemtrail. Well,
I mean, supposedly they're protecting us from atmospheric trauma, right? So
right, yeah. Well, there's a connection.
What is that?
In the keeping the planet cool, right? So, and the cooler the planet is, the more you're going to starve off or push back this geyser event. You keep the planet cool, the ice doesn't melt. Was it the Greenland ice sheet up there, Antarctica, and other places, down in what is it, Argentina, a few other places still have glaciers. But, anyways, yeah, the cooler the planet is, the slower you're gonna slow down this runaway freight train into the geyser season. So it does have a connection, absolutely. Yeah. Even though chemtrails don't exist, but if they were
to exist,
yep. States are banning them, but they don't exist. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're coming out of the box. I believe they're coming out of the box with the what do you call it? Chemtrail technology. They whatever powers that be said they're going to try it and see what happens. So well, that's a good sign, I guess.
Well, let's go to the next slide. These are the columns you were talking about.
Yeah, these are the columns. These are the like 30 some odd feet in diameter. They're hollow, and then you have these spiral, tubes or pathways or of some kind. There's always something. I got everything figured out, but then there's always something with the pyramids that doesn't make any sense. It's just like, okay, what are these things doing? You know what I mean? So it's always this conundrum that pops up, and
it's like a coil of some sort to me.
It's like a coil. It could have been left over for when they drilled this section out and put in these tubes.
Do you think the water comes up the tubes?
I believe the water, the function of the tubes are they might be like a, they call them cushion chambers on plumbing systems. They're so they'll suppress, as it comes up, it'll throttle the amount of pressure. It'll push it against itself, so it's not just flying straight out. But yeah, the water and steam comes up the tubes. Your biggest challenge is water slugs. Like water slugs are big chunks of water. We used to have problems in the engineering business and power plant. You'd get a water slug inside of a steam pipe that might be 1 or 2 feet in diameter. And you get a high water condition somewhere else in the system. A big slug of water would, like the size of a trash barrel, would go up into a pipe, and the steam traveling down a pipe is traveling at like hundreds of miles an hour, right? And then all of a sudden, this big chunk of water is now going hundreds of miles an hour inside this piping system, and there's a right hand turn in the pipe, like an elbow. And once it hits that elbow, it just blows it right off because there's so much energy and weight and velocity, and you're just looking at like a piece of water that's solid. So the biggest challenge is to prevent like slugs of water coming up from this now pressurized subterranean ocean that's blowing steam. So I believe these tubes are set up completely vertical, so you can't get a slug of water coming up, doing hundreds and hundreds of miles an hour and just rip the a pyramid in half, or the whole complex on the Giza Plateau. It'd be like the guns of Nerone from the battleship the Iowa just blasting on one of those big battleships. Just
Yeah.
they're shooting bullets the size of the weight of a Volkswagen. I mean, they just whatever they hit, they just destroy. So that's why they're so many, and then why they're so large is to prevent the slugs of water coming up from those subterranean oceans when it does go into geyser mode. And it's like I said, that there could be some kind of a drainage system back from the Giza Plateau. The Giza Plateau has been changed. I mean, they put the dam up there at the beginning of the Nile, up by Isis's temple. I was up there a couple of years ago. Was the Aswan Dam or something like that? I believe it's up by the Aswan Quarry, where they get the granite from, the rose granite. But I mean, prior to that, it used to be just huge floods in the Giza Plateau, in Egypt, not just the Giza Plateau, but these tunnels go on for miles all over the place. So there might have been a system in here to fill this chamber up with these subterranean oceans up with this water. I don't know. I'm just talking out loud, just thinking about it, because I really haven't. I haven't really settled in on what these things actually do, other than the fact that they might be left over from the actual construction, or they could be like rebar. Have today, you got rebar wrapped columns on your bridges and things of that nature. So it's a mystery, but
John, is there any estimate as to how deep those columns go?
they go 1,800 feet, or 640 meters.
Okay.
Yeah, they're about a third of a mile.
Wow. Okay.
It's
Do you
enormous.
want to show what they go into?
Sure, yeah. Let's put the what do I call that? The box there, a manifold box. There's one there. I think you got a bigger one. If you keep going by, I think there's a bigger one.
I think this is the only one I
Oh,
saw.
that's the one. Okay, all right. Well, we'll stick with that one. And yeah, so you have 640-meter, 30-foot wide tubes that basically land on top of these boxes. Now, I'm surmising that obviously there's holes going through the box, and the what do you call it? This and below the boxes goes down to the proverbial subterranean ocean that I keep talking about. So when the water comes up, it goes up into the boxes, and then it hits the tubes and it makes its way up to the surface.
Got it.
And then all the devices on the pyramid in the pyramids come into play and keep this stuff from going airbound. So for the most part, it's a plumbing manifold.
So what
Fluid.
causes the water to get sucked up? Is it because the pyramid should be enclosed? It creates kind of like a suction mechanism?
It's thermal energy. When you have
Oh,
an earthquake down there, where the
oh, the steam.
magma comes in contact with this water, or like I say, the oceans that are trapped inside what's that? The transition zone. Something comes into contact that's very hot and gets this ocean boiling, and steam. I think I don't know what it is pound for pound. I think 1 pound of steam expands like 50 or 60 times. So a gallon of water would expand to like the cubic foot of water, say, volume would expand 50, or I forget it's large. It's a big expansion. So we're talking something that's going to be hot and
Yeah, expansive.
moving at very, very high temperatures. And we use this stuff in nuclear power plants. We boil water, and this is similar to the temperatures and pressures that are inside an active reactor, in the fission reactor, and they're for the most part it's boiling water. I mean, and they take the steam off of the water and they run it through a turbine, turn the turbine, turns the generator, and you get electricity out of it. And here we are. So that's the technology that's used today in a nuclear power plant. There's not a nuclear source of heat, but it does come from the core of the planet, which is some kind of a nuclear reaction going on in there. There's something going on. So,
John, let me ask you a question. Do you think that we, as in our contemporary society, have the technology or would be able to recreate this technology, especially the drilling and boring side of it?
yeah, I think with we've got the diamond technology, because you're going to be cutting through this bedrock. Whether I don't think it's limestone that deep, but it might be. It depends on what the material of the bedrock is. But yeah, we have that. We have this type of technology
Okay.
available. Like, I mean, it's on the planet, but to gear it up and get it working is a massive undertaking. It would be a global, what would you call it? Global effort. Every
Sure.
country, all your resources and things of that nature just to drill 8 of these holes down that far.
Yeah.
We do miles and miles of horizontal drilling for cars and tunnels and things of that nature, but the totally different story, just drilling vertically for
Right.
a third of a mile, and then these things look like they're different material. Like I don't think it's the material like the bedrock material. This is like they drill the holes or whatever. They get down, they put these big boxes down there, these 250, 240 foot by 240 foot square boxes together, and then they pour this material down, whatever the material is, and that can withstand the high temperatures and high pressure of these massive, exploding geysers. So, but yeah, I think we have it, but it's not something that would happen overnight. It'd be a decade or so to gear up for something this significant. You know, maybe I'm shooting real high. Maybe 20 years, a couple of decades. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No, I understand. I'm just wondering if
yeah,
it's out of the total realm of possibility for us to do.
yeah. It's really it's mind-boggling when you try to figure out how they did it and
Yeah.
what they were using, because it's not only just drilling; it's material moving. You've got to get that material out of there, and then you got to make a third of a mile. I mean, how much material is that tube, made out of? I mean, what kind of material is that made out of? And, that's got to come from someplace.
Sure.
Whether it's liquid or what have you. I mean, it's just, you know, only the future will tell, how they did it. But the important thing is somebody did it for a good
reason.
good reason. And
Yeah.
when you want to take, no matter how, if you're a class 1 society or class 3 rather, and we're just barely a class 1. I mean, somebody goes through that amount of work and energy, regardless if you can just manifest it, it's still work. I mean, it's a massive undertaking of time and energy and material. So the only thing that as far as I'm concerned, that would justify that would be to facilitate life on the planet, like to keep this place alive. Like life's the most important. I mean, what are we here for? It's
Right.
we're the third rock from the sun. We're in the sweet zone. We are, this is heaven, unbeknownst to most people. We are on heaven.
Yeah. We don't want to crack the dome, so.
Yeah, right. We don't crack the dome. Yeah. So,
But hey, we have
Oh.
about 15 more minutes, John. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure you have enough time to go over your stuff.
Okay.
I
This is
just want to interrupt, and I hate to do it.
Yeah.
This is a discovery that I forgot to mention earlier.
Yeah.
I was with a group and we were discussing this. I measured there is a slight angle between these 3 pyramids, and I measured this exact, from this type photo, and
Right.
sure enough, that angle is one of the associated golden ratio scaling angles that I've
Okay.
discovered.
Oh, wow.
So just so you know,
That's great. Okay.
I got to match it up and see if it fits with the Orion theory on, the matching there. But anyway, that is true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I kind of. But it's like I'm off on a completely different reason for the dogleg, the Orion setup of these pyramids, and basically the discharge. All these doors have a discharge on the Giza Plateau. They're on the north side of the pyramid. And if you look at this picture right here, on the right side is the Nile. Nile goes up a mile, then takes a left. Can't see it, but not in the picture. It goes left across the whole Giza Plateau, going west, and then it takes another right and goes north up to the Red Sea. Now, the white lines you'll see I have, superimposed coming out of the pyramids. Those line up with the entrance door on the pyramids. So they're the main entrances of all 3 pyramids. They're all facing north. So if you do have a high pressure event inside the pyramid, the doors are hinged stone doors. They're stone hinged doors. And if enough pressure is behind that door, it's going to push it, and it's going to push the block in front of it right off the side of the pyramid, and this door is going to open up, and it's going to exhaust that steam and water straight up to the Nile. And I believe there's there was ancient aqueducts up there. I think they found one someplace. I think it was part of I forget what's that Cleopatra's something or other. I don't know what the deal was, but they gave it a name with Cleopatra. But so the reason these pyramids are set up in the Orion configuration and not in a straight line, so when they do discharge, they're not going to hit the pyramid in front of it and erode it and wipe it out. So these things have a flow. They get the water up to the Nile and then to the Red Sea eventually. And then those doors, once the pressure subsides, the door will slam shut. And that's how it works. Now, if you look at Menkaure, the smaller pyramid, I've been down there and myself and looked at it. That opening was blown out by geyser pressure. As far as I'm concerned, the erosion patterns are there. That opening, they said it was some guy named Al Mahmoud in 882. He's getting bored hanging out around the Giza Plateau and waiting for the next what do you call that? The crusade. He got bored, and he got into. I think he broke into GP1, and then a couple of years later, I don't know, it was like in I don't know, 1200 or 1600. I forget what the year is, but there was some kind of. The story goes that the pyramids were an insult to Islam, and they wanted to have the pyramid removed, and they were going to start taking the pyramid apart, and they decided to do it. And then somebody that was good at math told this land king, what I forget what they call themselves, but their name escapes me. But yeah, he just told him, he says, look, it's going to take us 1,000 years to to disassemble the small pyramid or something ridiculous, hundreds and hundreds of years, and then they stopped doing it. But the real story is there was geyser pressure under there. There was a failure of some sort, and it blew the door right off, blew the opening right out of the pyramid itself, and then the water discharged to the Nile. That's my theory. So, and I'm sticking with it.
Okay.
And that's the rest of the story. So again, like there's a functional purpose behind having having the pyramids that way. So, and it's discharged. And then, like I said, there's ground scan. They can see ancient aqueducts that go up to the Nile and discharge the water, and then it goes to the Red Sea. Here I am doing the my
Tour.
to the pyramid. I'm in, DP1. I'm in the King's Chamber, and I'm thinking geyser technology. I mean, I didn't have the whole picture then, but that's where I was. I got to lay down inside the sarcophagus, and I had the whole place to myself for a little while. It was nice. It was really,
Very cool.
got the download in there, as they say. And this kind of gets this kind of more or less is an outline of the bottom line is the transition zone, and where the water's locked up, and then it goes up underneath the pyramid, goes into the subterranean chamber. Talking about geyser pressure, making it past those other devices in GP2. There's manifolds that go over to GP1 and GP3, Menker and Khafre and Cheops. So they're all interconnected. And so, so you can see the arrow where it goes up the descending passageway, but in actuality, it's ascending. The water is ascending. And you can see how I just have it just blowing straight out, because that's when it overpressurizes the pyramid, it'll blow open that door and let the pressure out. But I'm not sure what the maximal allowable working pressure is of the pyramid. I'm not, I haven't done the math on it yet, but it's thousands of psi. Like it takes a lot of internal pressure before you blow that door open.
Oh,
And
I imagine.
so basically, you'll see the grand gallery. It goes up. There's 3 granite blocks there. Those granite blocks actually move under pressure. They slide open towards the grand gallery, and all the steam and water goes up the grand gallery, through the portcullis stones, into the King's Chamber, then vent out the 2 shafts. So that's the simple function of the water flow in that particular pyramid. And it's kind of like it was nice to have this here, because now we can make sense of what they found in the scan. We already know what the King's Chamber is. I know what the King's Chamber is. Whoever's watching this now knows what the King's Chamber is. It's a theory that it just bleeds the pressure off into the majority of the pyramid, which is made up of silica sand, just sand, and then the water flows back down into these what do you call it? All the causeways and shafts and everything else. So this is a better description right here. It's more of of the pyramid itself. Water comes up into the subterranean chamber. Now they've dug down. I don't know how many feet they went down, 40, 50, 80 feet, and it just kept going and going and going. So after the event, like, you got a lot of rubble and stuff like that comes up, it blows up and into the shafts and things like that. And then when it drains back down, like any drain, your bathroom drain, whatever, you're going to have the material fall back down that was eroded, broken off, damaged, and it basically, for the most part, packs that vertical well that actually ties into GP2's plumbing, and eventually, that's how that all works. So, for the most part, the blue lines show the water flow. The blue arrows goes up, and then it takes a left where those plugs are. I've got it written down what those plugs are doing. They're sliding plugs, and then the water goes up into the pyramid, and it just bleeds off through the five relieving chambers. So whoever named them relieving chambers did a good job. They at the time they said they were relieving the weight of the pyramid, or relieving the weight of the structure itself. But in essence, it's not. It's relieving steam and water pressure that builds up inside this pyramid, during the geyser event. So, yeah. And then this is the subterranean ocean that encompasses Libya, Egypt, Chad, and the Sudan. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of square miles of an ocean that is 34 miles below the Giza Plateau. And this is the supply of that geyser water, the water for those geysers that we're talking about. And it's located here. It's located in China, and there's one located under the Pyramid of the Sun, and the other pyramid systems under, I think there's in a few of the other countries down there, Belize and a few other places, that Yucatan Peninsula and all that. But yeah, so you have, this is your water supply. This is what they're, this is what they were trying to manage and keep it from getting into the atmosphere. Now, it's just the way the Earth is. You can't get rid of it. It's all part of sacred engineering. Like, this whole planet has a schedule. It's on a tight schedule. It's got to have an ice age to protect itself. It's got to have an interglacial period. It's got to have a geyser period. That's just the way a planet like this survives, and prevents it from overheating. You know what I mean? It has to go into winter, just like your garden. Garden has 4 seasons. The Earth has 4 seasons, and unfortunately, it's not all fun and games. It's not like the beginning of the interglacial period, which is great. It's like going into spring, and summertime. But fall and winter are here in the interglacial period, and that's kind of where we're heading. Now, this is a breakdown of the planet we're on, and the blue is the transition zone, where the water, 5 times the ocean water, is located. And you have, you can't really read it, but you have, the distance in, meters, how far. I think it's 400 miles below the surface. So we're talking pretty significant distance from that, where that these subterranean oceans are. But at some point, obviously, if we're looking at these things as geyser control devices, either magma comes up, or this transition zone breaks up and the water comes up into that particular location. So to be seen. And here's a geyser on Europa, going 120 miles above the surface. It's one quarter of Earth's gravity. So, this is unrestricted boiled water. It's just like we're basically living on a teapot. On the stove, you turn the stove on, you fill your teapot up with water, and once it starts steaming, you're getting the ice age. You're getting the shutdown. Like, mainstream has their theories on the ice age, how they come in, but it doesn't make any sense. I mean, they Milutin Milankovic, he's a Serbian like Tesla. He come up with 3 scenarios that create the ice age, but they all fall flat. They don't. They just, there's one where you go from an elliptical orbit to a circular orbit around the sun, but you're still taking in the same amount of BTU, so that doesn't work. The sun power goes down, goes up, but there's no real evidence of nuclear fusion having a cycle. Like it's just burns. Like it just burns, and it doesn't go. It is what it is. It just stays at that temperature. Um, unless something big hits it, obviously, you crash into another galaxy, it could be an issue, or exoplanet. And the other thing is, I theorize the sun gets replenished food. We're following the sun around the center of the galaxy, so we don't see the forward end of the sun, and the sun's, you know, gobbling up anything that's remotely in its path. So it's always getting a consistent amount of replenished nuclear fuel, if you will. I mean, that's one of my theories. And then what do we have? Pyramids and the Great Floods with John Shaughnessy. So that's my Noah. I have my Noah costume on there. So, and what I want to tell everybody that's watching, you might not have a boat, you might not have a canoe or a kayak, but you can get a life vest. Keep it around, put it in the trunk of your car. It'll buy you some time, because with the geyser comes the flood, comes the global flood.
Ah, okay. Good advice.
I would rather the Earth explode. Okay, I would rather die that way than
get something. Get something with a box, a little. What do you call it? There, a little, Ziploc, compartment here. You can keep your nutrient bars in there. Maybe a couple of bars of chocolate or something.
Great. That'll keep us through the cataclysm, I'm sure.
Well, it'll buy you some time until something big floats by. You can climb up on.
Yeah.
It's not as bad. Like the global flood's not as bad as, like, say, in Noah's time or Ziese time, where there wasn't a lot of seafaring people. But in this particular environment, we have ships, we have like carriers, we have submarines, we have all the billionaires have their own yachts, and they got tennis courts on them. I mean, so these people, they will ride out the storm and survive. There's plenty of people that'll survive the flood, a massive global flood. So you just hang out long enough, something will come by. Somebody might be seeing the flood. They're at work, they didn't get home on time, the boat floated away. Might come by your house, you can just hop on it.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It's terrifying.
It
When I
is.
wrote this book, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. It was worse than The Exorcist.
Well,
Scary.
did you have any last words for everybody watching today, John, before the flood hits us?
Yeah, right. Just if you have an ear of anybody, just shut the pyramids. Just play it safe. Because life on Earth depends on this technology intact. So basically, you have a slow descent into the ice age, so you can survive, and plants survive. All the species survive, and humans survive. And
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing: is close the pyramids up, repair what the damage we've done for exploration. Excuse me, and that's the biggest thing I'm concerned about. That's my thing. So
Yeah. And there's so many perspectives out there. You don't know what to believe anymore, but
just play it safe. Just play it
Yeah.
safe. I mean, everybody's seen the pyramids. We got it on video. You don't have to go in there. It's what's done is done. And then keep doing the invasive, non-invasive exploration with this synthetic aperture radar technology, and I think it looks like it's all intact for the most part. It looks like it's, except for us opening up the pyramids and defeating the whole process. I mean, it looks good. So,
well,
all right.
thank you so much for joining us today, John. We really appreciate you coming on and talking about all this.
All right.
And thank you, everybody, for for tuning in today and keeping an open mind, and just keep researching and keep learning and stay curious and keep shining your light, and the world will be a better place.
That's
Take care,
it.
everybody.
Thanks for having me.